Have you ever lost your temper? Lost an entire peaceful day? Just because of a careless word, a cold glance, or some trivial event? In the modern world, people react as if their minds were unlocked doors anyone can enter, toss in some anger or fear, and walk away, leaving behind a mess. But you don't have to live like that. You can train yourself to remain calm, even when the world is in chaos. Stoicism is not a doctrine for those who want to escape life, but a guiding light for those who dare to live honestly, with clarity, with strength, and with intention. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That is not just a truth, it is a warning. Your mind is a lens. The world may throw into it the light of loss, disorder, or injustice, but it is you who decides whether that light bends into calm or into rage. From this moment on, we begin the journey of training the mind so that nothing can shake you. 1. You are a prism, not a leaf in the storm. A beam of light bends into many colors when it passes through a prism: red, blue, yellow, violet. These colors aren't created by the light, but by how the prism refracts it. That's the image Stoics use to describe the human mind. Events reach us like light, bare, neutral, without meaning or emotion. It is we who decide what they become after they pass through the prism of our minds. A criticism can become a deep wound that lingers all day, or it can be a chance to examine ourselves. A rejection can be the end of our confidence or the beginning of courage as we step beyond comfort. None of that depends on the speaker, the circumstances, or fate. It depends on you, the one holding the prism. What torments people is not the world outside, but the story they tell themselves about it. You're not sad because someone ignored you. You're sad because you believe it means you're worthless. You're not angry because you were criticized. You're angry because you think you weren't respected. In each situation, we react as if emotion is a reflex, as if there's no choice but to feel angry, hurt, or hopeless. But Stoics don't see life that way. They pause in the very first moment after something happens, observe it, identify it, and ask, what am I assigning to this event? Is there a better way to see it? This isn't avoiding emotion, it's mastering it at the highest level. Marcus Aurelius, the greatest emperor of ancient Rome, lived in a world of betrayal, plague, war, and illness. Yet each morning, he sat not to write orders, but to write to himself as a man learning how to live. He reminded himself, you can control your mind. No one can take that from you. The world may fall apart, people may betray you, your body may hurt, but the mind can stand like stone if you choose so. That power comes not from delusion, but from relentless training to see the world exactly as it is, no more, no less, and then to choose a lens through which you live better, live stronger. When you see yourself as a leaf in the storm, anything that happens can sweep you away. An insult can make you react as if the whole world is against you. A small setback can make you collapse, thinking everything is always against me. But when you remember you're a prism, you're no longer passive. You become the one who bends the light. You can choose calm over agitation, observation over reaction, reason over impulse. And most importantly, you recognize every emotion that arises in you is crafted by your own mind, not the world outside. When others treat you poorly, what they throw are just behaviors, words, attitudes. But the feelings you experience come from how you interpret those actions. You can say, he disrespected me, and feel hurt. Or you can think, maybe he's tired or having a rough day, and stay at peace. In both cases, the person doesn't change, only your perspective does. And that shift completely changes your inner world. No one can make you angry unless you choose to be. No one can hurt you unless you assign pain to what they did. This truth is harsh, but it's liberating. You are solely responsible for your emotions. Once you understand that, you begin to understand what freedom really means. Freedom doesn't come from controlling others, situations, or outcomes. It comes from mastering your own response to all of them. Your mind is not a bin for whatever the world throws at it. It's a door you have the right to close whenever necessary. And if you practice daily, observe your thoughts, examine your feelings, choose your reactions, you'll find yourself no longer drifting with the waves. You're not a leaf. You're a prism, clear, intentional, and unbendable unless you allow it. 2. Train your emotions like a warrior sharpens his blade. No one is born steady. No one enters this life with a calm mind by default. Calmness, like a warrior's blade, does not sharpen itself. It must be forged day by day through situations, fleeting emotions, and small defeats. Just as iron must be heated and hammered again and again to become a weapon, the mind must be tested, disciplined, and challenged to become a fortress against life's turmoil. We often wait for a peaceful life to feel peace. But Stoics understand. Peace doesn't come from circumstances, it comes from the ability to master emotions amidst the most uncertain ones. And that ability is not a gift, it's a skill, one you can learn, train, and make second nature if you persist. They don't speak about calmness, they live it daily. Like a warrior training with his sword, not for display, but to be ready. A person who doesn't train their emotions is easily dragged by the world like a puppet. They flare up when mistreated, get lost after failure, punish themselves over small mistakes, or let fear block their path. But one who's trained behaves differently. They don't react immediately. They observe, they analyze, they accept emotions, but don't let them lead. This calmness isn't suppression, it's clarity and transcendence. And like all things that require practice, you can't wait for a crisis to learn how to face it. A warrior doesn't wait until battle to train with his sword. Stoics encourage creating small adversities each day, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations to learn endurance, patience, and control. They call it voluntary discomfort, not to suffer meaninglessly, but to prepare your inner strength. When you wake up earlier than usual, though tired, you're training. When you take a cold shower, though unpleasant, you're training. When you stay silent instead of retaliating against an insult, you're training. Each small act sends a signal to your mind. I'm in control. I don't serve fleeting emotions. I'm training. And those seemingly insignificant acts forge a great resolve when real crisis strikes. Nothing is small when it comes to inner training. When you stay composed while someone cuts in line, when a plan falls apart, or when you're unfairly criticized, these are quiet tests for the mind. And the more you pass them, the more your mind learns it cannot be easily shaken. Inner strength doesn't come from controlling others, but from staying whole in chaos. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Ask yourself each morning, today I may be betrayed, misunderstood, insulted, but that's what others do. How I respond is my own choice." That line is not just advice, it's a reminder of responsibility. You are not responsible for emotions arising, but you are responsible for how you act after. And it's daily practice that widens that gap, the gap between feeling and action, so you no longer fall victim to impulse. Emotions aren't the enemy, they are signals, but if you let them lead, they will misguide you. Stoics don't aim to eliminate emotion, they simply refuse to be its slave. They turn emotions into data, into material to reflect upon, and then choose responses that align with reason, virtue, and dignity. That is the art of living, not letting the external world conquer the internal one. And just like a blade sharpened through countless strikes and fire, a mind trained daily becomes steady, no longer shaken by criticism, no longer broken by failure, no longer surrendering when things go wrong. Instead, you act with certainty, with self-command, and with a quiet strength that cannot be moved. 3. Observe your emotions. Don't let them command you. When an emotion arises, few people notice it in time. Most of us act as if it were an irresistible command. Anger must be shouted, sadness must hide, fear must retreat, and hurt must strike back. But Stoics don't live that way. They don't deny emotions, but they refuse to be ruled by them. They see emotions as waves, sometimes large, sometimes fierce, but always fleeting, and their task is not to fight the waves, but to stand still, observe them, and choose action only when the waters have calmed. We often say, "I couldn't help it," as if anger were some mystical force controlling our body, or as if anxiety were a monster beyond our control. But in truth, emotions are not commanders. They are signals. When someone hurts you, the emotion that surfaces isn't there to compel retaliation, but to alert you that something needs reflection, a misplaced expectation, a boundary, or your own perspective. Emotions are data, not directives. And if you act solely on that data, you'll live like a reflex machine with no choice, no freedom. The Stoics saw the highest human freedom as the ability to choose our response. Between stimulus and action, there is always a gap. In that space, if you are aware, you can decide, will I react like a victim or act like someone who chooses how to live? But to claim that choice, you must train yourself to observe emotions honestly, calmly, and without judgment. Observe to understand, not to reject or suppress. When you are insulted, pause and ask, what am I feeling? Why did this feeling arise? Am I adding something to this story? Just a few questions like these can slow the boiling stream of emotion within. An emotion placed under the light of reason loses much of its impulsive power. It's still there, you still see it, but it no longer pulls you along. And from that stillness, you act with clarity, not reflex. Observing emotions doesn't make you cold. It helps you understand yourself more deeply. When you are calm enough to look at your anger without exploding, you may find it hiding unhealed wounds, unmet expectations, or a fear of being disrespected. When you pause to watch your sadness, you may see it's not the event itself, but the weight of expectation you attach to it. And when you observe your worry, you'll often realize it stems from things that haven't even happened, which means you're trading the present for what doesn't exist. Epictetus once said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgment about them." This is profoundly true of emotions. Emotions arise from how you view the world, not from the world itself. And if you shift your view, the emotions will shift too. When you choose to observe instead of react, you're teaching your mind that it's not a slave to circumstance. You're creating space to breathe, to think, and to live with intent. Practicing emotional observation doesn't require any complex rituals. It just takes a few seconds each time emotion arises. Pause, breathe deeply, and look inward as if watching a cloud drift across the sky. That cloud may be dark, but it will pass. The key is not to leap into the storm. Stand still and observe. Peace lies there. And over time, observation becomes habit, then instinct. You'll no longer be swept away by emotions as before. You'll act more slowly but more precisely, react less but more powerfully. You'll suffer less because you'll know emotions are not the master. You are the one who decides. 4. Mental minimalism, because what you think shapes who you are. Most people understand minimalism in physical terms. Fewer things, cleaner spaces, simpler lives. But Stoics didn't stop at outer simplicity. They practiced it within the mind. Because they knew that what you allow into your mind will silently shape you. Every small thought, every needless concern, every headline you read, every story you hear. Not everything deserves a place in your head, and not every thought that arises deserves your energy. We live in an age where the mind is shattered into fragments. In a single day, you absorb hundreds of inputs you didn't ask for: a sensational headline, a meaningless online argument, a video that irritates you, a message that breaks your focus. With each of these, a bit of your mental energy is drained, your clarity dulled, and your inner peace replaced with noise. The Stoics saw this clearly, and they chose to protect the purity of their minds, like a gardener tending a private garden, pulling out weeds before they take over. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Keep your mind free from trifles." That's not just advice, it's a strategy for living. Because every time you get caught in something unimportant, you're trading your precious focus for what isn't worthy. And if you keep living like that, reacting to every bit of information, tangled in every opinion, outraged by every small thing, you'll eventually have no strength left for what truly matters in your life. Mental minimalism doesn't mean you stop thinking, it means you start thinking selectively. You don't let your mind become a trash bin for whatever others throw in. You become careful with what you read, who you listen to, which thoughts you nurture, and you allow meaningless worries to drift away. It's a form of discipline and a deep form of self-love, because you are defending the most sacred territory in yourself. One of the most dangerous signs of a cluttered mind is chaos in action. When you overthink, you hesitate. When you fear too many scenarios, you never begin. When you carry too many useless worries, you lose clarity in every decision. The Stoics taught, when you simplify your thinking, you act with clarity. When you release thoughts beyond your control, you focus on what's truly in your hands. And when you live this way, you're no longer driven by external chaos. Mental minimalism is a skill you can practice every day. Start by filtering your inputs. Turn off unnecessary notifications, curate who you follow, limit your scrolling. Practice writing down your thoughts to see what really matters and what's just noise. Each day, take a moment to ask yourself, does this thought serve my clarity? Does this concern help me live better? If the answer is no, you have the right and the responsibility to let it go. Stoics didn't seek a quiet life because they feared disorder, but because they knew mental disorder blocks us from living with reason and dignity. They understood that if you don't control your mind, it will control you. And a mind filled with garbage has no room for peace, wisdom, or courage. That's why they chose to live simply in thought. They kept what was essential, let go of what was meaningless, and because of that, they acted with clarity, lived lightly, and stood firm through every storm. 5. Living in the present is a superpower in the modern age. We often assume that living in the present is natural, but in truth, very few people are truly here in this moment. Our minds are constantly wandering, pulled back by what's past or haunted by what hasn't yet arrived. And this absence, the absence from our own lives, is the root of much anxiety, regret, and helplessness. The Stoics understood this early on. They didn't live waiting for some ideal future, nor did they dwell in the past. They lived in the only place where life truly happens, the present moment. Seneca once wrote, True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future. That's not a catchy slogan, it's a sharp guide for living, because the future, no matter how much you worry, remains beyond your control. And the past, no matter how much you agonize, cannot be changed. Only the present is the ground where you can sow, tend, and harvest. Miss the present, and you've dropped your life into lands that don't exist. In the modern world, living in the present is no longer a natural state, it has become a rare skill. We are pulled into streams of notifications, jerked by packed schedules, and lured by endless concerns. The mind becomes a battlefield where fragments of future and past fight for our attention. And when attention is stolen, we lose the ability to notice the beauty of the moment unfolding. We sit beside loved ones, but our minds chase an unanswered email. We enjoy a good meal, yet our thoughts are glued to a past conversation. The most precious things slip by, unlived. The Stoics didn't seek the present as a refuge, but as a place for action, because only in the present can you make a choice. You can't act in yesterday, and you can't solve tomorrow's problems before they arrive. But you can act right now with clarity, with calm, with a sense of duty. And every action fully grounded in the present helps build the future you desire. Living in the present doesn't mean denying the past or ignoring the future. It means you don't let the past control your emotions, and you don't let the future steal your current peace. When you reflect on the past, you do so to learn. When you plan for the future, you do so with intention, but then you return to the now, the only place you can breathe, love, and create change. One of the most effective ways to practice is by observing your breath. When you focus on your breath, you bring your mind back to your body, back to the moment unfolding. When you wash your face, feel the water on your skin. When you walk, feel each footstep touch the ground. These seemingly small actions, when done with full presence, can become the doorway out of anxiety's spiral and into a calm inner life. The Stoics believed a present mind is a steady mind, because it's not torn by what cannot be changed, nor drowned by what has not happened. It is here, aware and intentional. It does not let time pass meaninglessly. It lives as if each moment were the final chance to live rightly, deeply, and with dignity. And if you train yourself to be fully present each day, you'll realize peace isn't in some distant place, it's right here in a breath, in a step, in an attentive glance. The present is the only gift life offers you. Receive it with your whole soul. 6. Learn to love adversity. Most of us grow up with an invisible assumption. The ideal life is one with little friction, few failures, and minimal pain. We dream of a smooth journey, where every door opens when we knock, every word is understood, and every dream comes true if we try hard enough. But the Stoics never fed that illusion. They didn't wish for an easy life, they only wished to be strong enough not to fall when it got hard. And they knew that to gain that strength, we must not only overcome adversity, we must learn to love it. To love adversity doesn't mean seeking pain or romanticizing hardship. It means seeing challenges through a different lens, not as enemies, but as teachers. Every trial doesn't come to break you, but to strip away your weakness, your illusions, your unrealistic expectations, so you can see who you truly are when comfort is gone. And in those very moments of hardship, you have the greatest chance to build your character. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That line is a powerful Stoic declaration on how to approach adversity. Instead of avoidance, they face it. Instead of retreat, they go deeper. Instead of blame, they ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" By redirecting the mind this way, they turn stumbles into steps, wounds into insight, and loss into a foundation for gratitude. In everyday life, you won't lack opportunities to practice this. A failed project, a betrayed friend, a lost chance, a painful misunderstanding, each is a lesson disguised as failure. If you only stand and complain, you'll miss the deeper message. But if you sit, listen, reflect, and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Then every adversity becomes an essential part of your growth. The Stoics didn't believe that adversity had meaning in itself, but they believed you could give it meaning. A loss could be the beginning of awakening. A failure could be a turning point for redefining your values. A rejection could be the moment you learn to stand without needing approval. Nothing is meaningless if you choose to give it meaning. And in that choice, you stop living like a victim. You become the author of your journey. Loving adversity is a proactive stance. When you accept it as a natural part of life, you become less shocked, less resistant, and less panicked when things go wrong. You no longer ask, "Why me?" but instead, "What will I do from here?" That question marks the start of inner transformation. And each time you do this, you're not just getting through a challenge, you're shaping a new version of yourself, more resolute, more clear-eyed, and more composed in the face of the next collapse. If you can see every hardship as a necessary part of the path, if you can learn to rise without being comforted, if you can maintain dignity when all else falls apart, then adversity is no longer a threat but an ally. You don't fear it. You enter life with the posture of someone already prepared. And in that readiness, you'll find a strength that no circumstance can ever take from you. 7. Self-discipline is the highest form of freedom. When people speak of freedom, they often think of doing whatever they want, whenever they want, unbound by rules or limits. But to the Stoics, freedom is not about chasing every desire. It is about mastering oneself. A person who cannot control their emotions, behavior, and habits is not free. They are simply a slave to their anger, to their fear, to their laziness, or to the lure of instant gratification. And to break free from that slavery, there is no other path but discipline. Self-discipline doesn't mean a harsh or joyless life of rigid self-denial. On the contrary, it is the training to distinguish what truly matters from what is fleeting. It is the ability to reject what's easy in order to pursue what's right. When you practice discipline, you are teaching your mind that it doesn't have to obey every fleeting emotion, and you are proving to yourself that you have the power to choose your response rather than being pushed by circumstances. The Stoics understood well. Great things never come from indulgence. A steadfast mind cannot be built on a foundation of laziness and lack of control. They lived as inner warriors, not only disciplined in outward actions, but also in how they thought, felt, and responded to the world. They didn't allow themselves to erupt just because someone insulted them, didn't respond in anger, didn't fall into envy or meaningless cravings. And in each of these small choices, they asserted their sovereignty over themselves. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Be strict with yourself and tolerant with others." That strictness is not punishment, it is the highest form of self-respect. Because only when you truly respect yourself do you have the courage to say no to what makes you weaker from a bad habit, to a reckless word, to a fleeting urge. A person without discipline will be pulled by every temptation, but a disciplined person lives by what they believe even when no one's watching, even without praise, even when it's hard. Self-discipline is also how you protect your inner peace. Someone easily swayed by emotion will always feel unstable. They might be joyful over a compliment and then crushed by an indifferent glance. They could be at ease one moment and in despair the next from an unanswered message. That's not freedom, it's dependence on the external. But with discipline, you learn to stand firm amid these fluctuations. You no longer react impulsively, no longer get hurt by the trivial. You choose how you feel and act. And that is what brings a sustainable freedom, one that no one and nothing can shake. Discipline is not a chain, it is the path to true independence. Because if you can't say no to a harmful habit, then it's that habit running your life. If you can't delay short-term pleasure for long-term values, you will remain trapped in a cycle of fatigue and regret. But if you can master yourself, then you can master your life. And nothing is more valuable than the right to live a life where you govern every step, every thought, every action. True freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's knowing exactly what you're doing, why you're doing it, and not being driven by any impulse or temptation. A disciplined person has nothing to prove to anyone because their freedom lives within quiet, steady, and untouchable. 8. Death doesn't steal peace, it deepens it. We often avoid the topic of death like a forbidden subject. Just thinking about it is enough to make many people uneasy, fearful, and desperate to distract themselves from this inescapable truth. But not the Stoics. They looked straight at death not with panic, but with clear-eyed acceptance. To them, death was not the enemy of life, but a companion that reminds us to live rightly, meaningfully, and without delay. Death does not steal peace, because it is the most natural truth that we all must face. What unsettles people is not death itself, but the forgetting of death. When you live as if life is endless, it's easy to waste time, to delay what matters, to get entangled in petty arguments and let trivial emotions rule the day. But when you remember that time is limited, each moment suddenly becomes more sacred and more intentional. You begin to choose more carefully how you spend your time, how you treat others, and how you meet yourself. Seneca once wrote, "You act as if you are immortal, yet fear the smallest of troubles as if they are the end of the world." That sentence is a wake-up call. We fear pain, failure, rejection, but we waste our days on things that do not cultivate our character. The Stoics practiced the mindset of memento mori, remembering that we will die not to become pessimistic, but to become awake. They didn't wait until illness to value health, didn't wait until losing someone to express love, and didn't wait until their final moments to ask, "Have I lived as a true human being?" When you live with the awareness of death in your mind, the peace you carry is no longer built on denial. It is built on alignment. You are no longer living to escape anything, but to fulfill what must be done. And that gives your life a deeper texture, finite, but not shallow, ending, but not meaningless. I used to believe that steadiness came from knowing a lot, understanding deeply, or achieving some social status. But the more I live, the more I realize. True steadiness doesn't come from the outside, it comes from mastering what's within. When my mind was undisciplined, a single piece of criticism could keep me up at night, and an unexpected change was enough to throw me into confusion. But ever since I began observing my emotions, embracing adversity, and practicing discipline, I've found myself less easily shaken. I don't react impulsively. I don't demand everything to go my way. And most importantly, I've learned to slow down, not because I lack goals, but to live each moment more fully. To me, training the mind is a lifelong journey. There's no perfect destination, only each day becoming a little clearer, more present, and more at peace within myself. And if you find these reflections helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss future content. Because every video here is a gentle reminder, you are stronger than fleeting emotions, steadier than the chaos around you, and more at peace than you might think. You don't need to rush to change the whole world. Just learn how to stay centered within yourself, and that alone is already a quiet but magnificent victory. See you in the next video.